Today we're gonna talk about makeup and makeup tutorials. Now, as a dude, makeup has always been a part of my life, but not really a direct part. I rarely wear it. I used to on Know Your Meme. Some of those times it was obvious, but most of the time it wasn't. And that's really the only kind of makeup that I know how to do. Sort of like on camera, no makeup. I have a strict no makeup policy for Idea Channel, which is probably no surprise if you've seen that one stress zit that I get sometimes. It's not a judgment on makeup, I just don't think of myself that way. But I will say the process of applying it when I did wear it was, sure, about covering up that stress zit or whatever, but also about becoming myself, becoming another version of myself for camera that wasn't super different, but was distinct in some way. Which is what I'm interested in, this connection between makeup and self that I think many people, or at the very least I, deeply misunderstand sometimes. And which YouTube makeup tutorials kind of lay bare, ironically. Like when you watch Michelle Phan or Zoella applying cosmetics on camera. And here I think I'm talking mostly about beauty tutorials, drugstore makeovers, everyday makeup tips, not special effects or costume makeup tutorials, though you could definitely argue that they do factor here. Anyway, watching people in these videos, you are watching someone become themselves, or showing someone else on their face how to become themselves, using their own face as a stand-in for their audiences. And even though that process involves a lot of talk of product and color and shape, there's also this other largely unspoken talk about the self, its elusiveness, and how this stuff might even be able to help you track it down. I started thinking about this last year when Anna Akana uploaded How to Put on Your Face, which if you haven't seen it, you gotta. It reads sort of like the makeup tutorial version of Steven Soderbergh's Schizopolis, where instead of reciting their lines, actors announce their intention or subtext. Reassurance that it is all about having fun, not looking a certain way, but how looking a certain way makes you feel, followed by a vague statement connecting makeup tutorials to a barely sensical postmodern concept. Anna talks about each step in her makeup routine as though it is a component of her attitude and not some bit of kit.
Now to start off, dabble your eyes with optimism.
And though this is a comparison that Anna was probably not going for, it sort of makes me think of my grandmother, who I have many very strong memories of saying, I have to put my face on before leaving the house as a kid. This was confusing to me for two reasons. First, in the Amelia Bedelia sense of, your face is already on, Graham. But the second confusion is one that I still contend with today. Why does one have to put on another face? What's wrong with the one that's already there? There's a tendency for a lot of dudes, myself included, to think that saying things like, you don't need makeup, you're beautiful without it, is a compliment. But it's sort of like saying, when you adjust your appearance, I see it as an attempt to please others, not yourself. In reality, all of those things, appearance, self, others, are bound up in one another. We've arrived at our current attitudes after a long history connecting all of them with makeup. There's evidence going way back, as far as prehistoric times, that people, mostly men in some places, applied color to their faces to emphasize their features. But by post-Enlightenment, the Western and eventually American attitudes about cosmetics became complicated. In Victorian England, makeup was thought highly improper. For the longest time, cosmetics were more almost home remedy than product. They were even called kitchen physic, and over time, their effects became associated with morale and good health. You know, look good, feel good. But even during the long transition from recipe to product, makeup maintained an association with purity. It was only the clean or pure wearer who, through the application of cosmetics, could obtain true beauty, which was largely associated with the idea of natural beauty that you might imagine comes packaged with all sorts of troubling ideas about race, some of which we're still working through today, given the West's fair skin-centric global domination of the beauty industry. Around World War II, after makeup became productized and industrialized, it was viewed and advertised as an important component of maintaining morale during the war effort. But one look at some of the advertisements and one can't help but wonder if if the source of that morale is supposed to be satisfying self-expression or prettying up for the approval of others.
Soften the effect with your fingertip. See how much more personality shows in your face.
Feminism of the 60s cast makeup as a tool of the patriarchy for perpetrating the social and commercial subjugation of women. That idea comes up against more recent ideas about bodily autonomy. Each individual body, not all bodies en masse, is a political battleground. This necessarily complicates any definitive statement about what makeup does. It's just simply not that straightforward. Also around this time, there was a resurgence in the number of male makeup users in Europe and America, at least, thanks in no small part to celebrity culture and its related economic forces. This is very hard to do, and I am not good at it. But also thanks largely to the gay community, which again, you could argue had much of its unique style co-opted by commercial forces. This is even harder on this side. Given all this, what can we responsibly say makeup does? What does it enable us to do? Let's turn back to the other place now. Makeup enables us to do a lot, much of the same stuff our clothes enables us to do. It advertises social group, political leaning, lifestyle. Significantly, and arguably in a manner distinct from fashion writ large, cosmetics also encourages community. Since long before beauty vlogs and their amazing audiences, it's been significant that much makeup knowledge has been passed between people, because it's been forbidden, deeply personal, or complicated. In much of the reading that I did for this episode, sources in the doobly-doo by the way, there was all kinds of reference to magic and spells. And forgiving any kind of femininity-inspired exotica/mysticism, this attitude towards beauty feels, I don't know, present. It underlies so much beauty media, tutorials chief among them. When one learns cosmetics, they learn not only a set of techniques for applying a set of signs directly onto their body, but also what we've all sort of agreed those signs mean, how they constitute what Camilla Power calls a playful, shared fiction of identity, how they contribute to the magic of institutional reality. When one learns cosmetics, one learns, to stick with our magic metaphor, some sort of weirdly codified conjuring spell, where the thing conjured is both internal and external to the caster. What makeup tutorials provide, especially given their availability and ubiquity, is some seemingly endless set of techniques and signs for designing and conjuring this speculative self. However, they might also provide encouragement of what Bernadette Wittgenstein calls the cosmetic gaze, where humans, quote, view their own or others' bodies as incomplete projects that await the intervention of technologies of enhancement, which will help better approximate their true self or natural potential. For Wittgenstein, these technologies don't stop at makeup, but include all image-enhancing, self-editing digital technologies and media. When the infinity of looks documented by tutorials is added to the infinity of angles and lenses and color correction and lighting, does the potential for viewing our own or others' bodies as incomplete grow? Maybe. But so too does our knowledge of what part we might play in that shared fiction of reality, how we might play it, and with whom. Perhaps, as is the case with their subject matter, it is irresponsible to make any definitive statement about what makeup tutorials do. What do you guys think? What can we responsibly say makeup does? And how do makeup tutorials fit into that? Let us know in the comments, and it would be beautiful if you wanted to subscribe. If you do celebrate it, I hope your Val/Galentine's Day was very romantic and that all of your ships have sailed. Let's see what you had to say about Korrasami. Steve the Leg suggests that Nick maybe asked the Korra creators to tone down Korrasami because they were afraid of offending viewers, and there were a lot of people who took this a step further and talked about how Korra is carried in a lot of countries where non-heterosexual relationships are strictly verboten, and so in sort of fear of not being picked up for other seasons or not being further distributed, they didn't go explicit with the end of book 4. And there were a lot of really good responses to this, and the one that I think is the most interesting has to do with the fact that for the last several seasons, Korra has been online only, and so you gotta wonder how strong the economic pressures really are, right? Like I think they have even said, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, that they are taking a break, that they don't have another Avatar season planned. Why not just go for it? Lenny Rivercat 2777 and a lot of other people pointed out that maybe Korrasami could have been pushed further if there were more development of it in the main storyline of Korra. That the writing, even though some people, myself included, see there as being hints at this thing, that it was sort of out of the blue. And Vince is something and Olivia Portela also talk about the related idea of queer baiting, that this was maybe done just intentionally to get the kind of press that they have been receiving. And I don't know if I buy that, and neither, it seems, do a lot of the people who are suggesting that it's possible, just sort of throwing it out there. But it is an important question to ask, whether or not it, like when this kind of thing happens, when it is and isn't sort of true representation. And it seems like that's a big question related to Korrasami. So these are great comments, links to these and all the others in the doobly-doo. I write fanfiction, Sacred List, Paulo DuPont, and a bunch of other people point out that while fanfiction might be great for kind of pushing the envelope of major market media, it's also great for recombining characters and situations in an endless array, that you can do all of the permutations of all of the characters and all of the situations throughout popular culture, and that, you get new stories that way. And I Write Fanfiction takes it one step further and says that it also means that there is a kind of built-in audience for the things that you're working on, because they're going to be interested in those characters and situations before they're interested in your name as a writer, because, no one knows who you are, and that it's kind of almost like there's a built-in, like, writer's workshop in that side of the community, which is an idea that I love. I think that's great. Megan Gatz writes about how fanfiction might be addressing problems of representation, but also addresses this want of audiences to experience the same kind of thing over and over again. And I think that we all have this relationship with something. There's some piece of media or some moment that we want to just sit in and experience repeatedly. And fanfiction, what it allows you to do is it allows you to experience, say, a relationship between two characters, not just the same way repeatedly, but repeatedly many different ways, which I never expected or never thought of, and that's really interesting and cool. Also, on the subject of ships, Megan's OTP is Steven and Connie from Steven Universe, which, yes, I agree, and if you're out there and not watching Steven Universe, what are you doing? You have to. There were so many good ships in the comments that we are never gonna get to all of them, so we'll collect a bunch and put them in the doobly-doo, but there are a couple that I just wanted to talk about because they're so good. Arthur Dent and Ford Prefect, I love it. That's amazing. Jelsa, which I had never heard of, Jack Frost from The Rise of the Guardians, and Elsa from Frozen. Yes, they have lots of things in common, the color blue. Also, of course, and finally, me and the doobly-doo. I'll make sure to invite everybody to the wedding. This week's episode was brought to you by the hard work of these shipping magnates. We have a Facebook and IRC and a subreddit, links in my beloved. And the tweet of the week comes from KP Hawken, who points us towards a New York Times piece asking whether or not Twitter is the new pillory, the new place to shame people in public for their wrongdoing. Hey, why not? And hey, in case you were wondering, this episode of Idea Channel was brought to you by Squarespace. The latest version of their platform, Squarespace 7, has a completely redesigned interface, integrations with Getty Images and Google Apps, new templates, and a new feature called Cover Pages. If you want to try Squarespace, go to squarespace.com and enter the code IDEACHANNEL at checkout for a special offer. Squarespace, start here, go anywhere.